welcome in to the Triple Play Fantasy Football Show. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Triple Play Fantasy Football Show, a proud member of Underdog Fantasy, and shameless plug every time because we love Underdog. Use promo code TRIPLE. They're going to match your deposit up to $100. If you're one of those people that like depositing random amounts, like $59, they'll deposit that or they'll match you on that. So go check it out. They got a lot of great stuff with NBA coming. Doc hosting a different setup than we normally have. But I'm happy to announce that Alex Mateo is going to be a regular part of the pod moving forward. Alex, it's nice to have you back.
Doc, it's good to be back. When Dave sent me that text the other day, I was real excited. I'm looking forward to talking ball with you guys every Tuesday now.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to wear Philly stuff on our pod. That's the rule. So you're gonna have to change shirt mid podcast.
It's all about the fightings tonight, though.
It is. And then we are joined by Gator J, Jason at FantasyJ77. He is a producer and host for Fantasy and Frames and a host for Going for Two, and a big Spencer Strider observer as we talked back show.
Yes. Well, I'm a Braves fan, so go Braves. Beat Phillies. Be fine. My question though is, you told Alex he can't wear Phillies gear. Does that mean he has to strip on camera, or does that mean do we have to censor this program?
If it's on camera, my wife may be a little upset.
Maybe he turns the video off and just comes back in a jersey that's not Philly if he owns one.
Well,
yeah,
I doubt it. Philly fans don't own other jerseys. They own Philly jerseys and Eagles jersey.
That is probably the most true thing ever. And if you tweet that out, I will retweet that. It is a great tweet in its own. But enough baseball talk, guys. We're here talking football. We're entering week 5. I feel like this is the point in the season where you can come to conclusions on players. It's not too early to take a victory lap or to, if you're 1-4, 0-5, start panicking, or if you're 4-1, 5-0, start feeling really good. So, Jay, I'm going to start with you. Give me one takeaway from week 4.
Ooh, Bengals are in trouble. It's been a rough start all around, from Joe Burrow right on down to Irv Smith. It's wow. Didn't see it coming. He's had one good game, and the rest have been just blame it on the calf, whatever. I understand that, Chase's days and Higgins is now hurt, and Irv's days all rely on Burrow with the calf being injured. But ouch, this team is in trouble. They're in trouble for our fantasy ownership as well, in my opinion, at this point.
I was going to ask that because, Burrow or Chase still doesn't have a touchdown this year. Obviously, a lot is dependent on Burrow. Do you think Cincinnati is going to do what we're all fearing? At some point, they shut Burrow down. They trade Higgins. They tank at Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, I don't think they can trade Higgins right now. He's got broken ribs, so nobody's going to trade for him unless they're going to give him away. They got to let him get back.
It might be the Panthers. They're looking for a wide receiver one, but I do agree.
Well, I mean,
they have to wait till he has a couple good games.
It's funny you brought up the Panthers there because they used to have a wide receiver that they traded away, and I can't remember the guy's name. How he was a decent wide receiver. Oh yeah, DJ Moore. They traded him away, and now they're looking for a wide receiver. Great job, guys. Another NFC South team that is woof. But no, I mean, T. Higgins is hurt, so you're not going to be able to trade him right now. Do they shut Burrow down? Zach Taylor came out and said they're not shutting him down. But should they shut him down? The answer is probably yes on that.
Yeah, I think they should they should consider that sooner than later, especially if they keep falling in that division. It's going to be a dogfight to begin with in the AFC North, for them to climb back up in that race. Yes, it's still wide open, but
Jay, I
Burrow not
agree with
healthy
you.
is rough.
And I'm a believer in putting my money where my mouth is. And it's ironic you say that because I put a good sum of money on the Bengals under 8.5 wins on Barstool. And my friend and I changed the line because we tried to bet like a very large amount. And then it wouldn't let us do that. And the odds changed right after. So if that line is still there, under 8.5 on Barstool.
Did you do this before the season, or did you just do this like over the last couple of weeks?
This morning.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so you can bet live in season. So when we talk about our best bets, look at that. If and Patriots under 7.5 wins, that's still there. Because not every site has this. FanDuel and Barstool do. I think every other site doesn't have the Bengals' current season win total. So once again, take advantage of lines that are very favorable if you believe the Bengals are at some point going to shut it down. Alex, I'm going to go to you. What's your takeaway this week?
The Nico Collins breakout is here. It's a legitimate year 3 breakout. 3 of the 4 games, he's seen at least 9 targets and had 6 grabs in those 3 games and has had at least 80 yards, including 2 100-yard games. He is building a rapport with CJ Stroud fast. All reports in Houston are the rapport with Stroud and Collins and Tank Dell. That offense is building something. There's a lot of doubt coming into the year. But they have a legitimate receiver. He may not be their number 1 next year, but they have a legitimate receiver in Nico Collins that they can pencil in week and week out.
What would you say his rank is the rest of the season? Wide receiver?
In terms of fantasy,
like points per game basis, assuming he stays
per
healthy.
Game basis. If he stays healthy, I see full PPR probably around 14 to 15 a game.
So you're
on if he scores a touchdown, he'll flirt with a few 20-point games.
So you're saying
he's that wide receiver 11 to 14
like,
range.
Okay, so like a high-end wide receiver too.
Yeah.
I'm putting your stamp on it.
With that volume, if it's sustainable, it'll be a when, not an if he's a top-end wide receiver.
Here's the thing about the Texans, too. I feel like Brandon Cooks was such an underrated fantasy asset for years. And despite all the concussion concerns, he was relatively healthy the last couple of years. Really big target share. It's a completely new offense. CJ Stroud didn't have rapport with anybody going into this year. So for a lot of people that spent on Tank Dell week 2 for Fab, it was only a small sample size. I'm not saying it couldn't change moving forward, but I think, Alex, that's a really good point you bring up.
Yeah, my thing on that would be, I love the Nico Collins call right there. Absolutely love that, and I do think he's going to be a high-end wide receiver 2 and flirt with that back-end wide receiver 1. But much like I said about Burrow, CJ Stroud, and I'm on record of saying this, CJ Stroud was my QB1 coming out of this class over Bryce Young. CJ Stroud is proving it on the field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On why. And then adding Nico Collins to his fold, adding Tank Dell. This dude is something to be reckoned with. He's already a top 10 QB, overtaking the likes of Burrow and
I mean, currently,
Lawrence.
Yes. Currently, yes. It's a small sample size, but if you're going to talk about how they performed this year, it's interesting, Jay. That kind of ties into mine. The Steelers need to blow it up. Like, you get rid of everybody that's not George Pickens, because George Pickens, I think, has talent and is cheap. But you get rid of TJ Watt. You get rid of anybody with value on defense. The Steelers are mids. They will never be competing for a championship at this point with the roster they have. And I'm a firm believer that you either tank or you contend. If you're okay being mediocre, why play the sport in my mind? I know it's a very kind of drastic view, but I was on record before the season saying this. The Steelers don't have like one upper tier person on their position in the offense. It's just a bunch of guys that are good. Najee's a good running back. I think he gets a lot of hate in the community. DeAndre Johnson's a good receiver. Pat Freiermuth is a good tight end, but like none of them are game changers. And I think they completely keep Tomlin. Like, obviously Tomlin's a great coach, but
absolutely.
I think just blow up the team at this point. Get value while you can. Tank. Kenny's not the guy.
Not at all.
That was going to be my question. As you said that, blow up the Steelers. Is Tomlin still there? I mean, this is an organization that has had, 2 We talk about the Packers and how they've only had 3 quarterbacks in 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are the team that has had 2 head coaches in like 66 years or something. It's not 66, but it's a crazy number with Coward and Tomlin.
At least since the turn of the century.
I'd like to think the Rooney family is smart enough to know that if they for some reason fired him, he'd be picked up within 3 seconds
before he leaves the
office. And that despite the underwhelming rosters, he's always been 500 or above. Mm-hmm. And I think, coaches like that don't grow on trees. So it'll be interesting to see. He did say there were some changes that were coming on. But looking forward to week 5, these are the teams with buys. It's bye season. We have the Chargers, the Bucks. Your team, Jay. What are you going to do this Sunday instead of watching the Bucks game?
I'm going to probably hang out. There's a couple. Actually, I'm interested in watching the Pittsburgh game.
Okay.
I want to see what's going to happen there. And of course, Sunday night is just going to be a defensive battle that I can't wait to watch. So yeah, that's the plan for Sunday. While I'm not watching the Bucks win another ball game.
There we go. And then Seahawks and Browns are going to round it out. But week 4 has kind of really, I think, put into perspective of some of the injuries that have just happened. It seems like every week somebody's getting hurt. Pay attention for somebody on your waiver wire. So we've kind of already talked about this, but just from a start-sit perspective, Joe Burrow, until he is deemed fully healthy and actually shows it, would you start him? And this is, we'll say, a 12-team league, 12-team 1 QB league, and a super flex. Are you going to roster him, Alex? Or at least start him?
1 QB, I'm not starting him at all. I actually have made that decision the last 3 weeks. I've started Jared Goff over him in one league in particular. I've played Goff over him all 3 weeks. And until Burrow has multiple weeks where he's looking like himself, not even like Joe Burrow of last year, the QB4 points per game, but Joe Burrow, the not shell of himself in the pocket. Joe Burrow, who, if he throws for 250 and 2 touchdowns, like that's a low baseline, but that's really what we're hoping for. They have 44 points all season. You can't start anyone on the Bengals, period.
Wow. It's saying you can't start Jamar Chase, who was likely the 103. That's something we didn't think we'd be hearing. Yeah. But I think you're still starting Chase. I think he's dynamic enough. He'll get open no matter who's throwing him the ball. But outside of him, Joe Mixon and
can't start any
leagues. Yeah. Jay, going to you, Javonte Williams, a hip pointer. Sean Payton said that it's not something that should keep him out long term. Seems like he might miss this week, though. Is Jaleel McLaughlin the top waiver wire pickup for you this week?
No. I mean, he's not. He's a rookie out of Youngstown State, undrafted. There's got to be better options out there. I mean, to be quite honest, and they're going up against, who are they playing this week? They're not
the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos are playing the Jets this week. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not starting him against that vaunted Jet front line. That's not happening. I would rather, we going back to Pittsburgh, I'd rather start Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren over a rookie undrafted free agent that's going to be playing that Jets D. And going back to what the Jets D did just on Sunday night or on Monday night there, or Sunday night rather, against Kansas City, they didn't look bad. They didn't give Patrick Mahomes a ton of room to go and do work. Do you think that they're going to give Russell Wilson room? They're going to give. They're not. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, no, I can't stop him. He's probably going to be the top waiver wire ad this week out of everybody. But it's week 5. The waiver wire is really slim this week.
Yeah. And there's always going to be the top guy, which is usually a running back because of the shallowness of the position. This is the caveat. I think, where you would spend a little bit more. Because if Javonte misses time this week, he is probably going to get a starter's workload. I think he gets it more touches than P. Ryan. I think P. Ryan, we know who he is at this point. But the Broncos offense hasn't been awful. 16 points in the first game, but 33, 20, 31. This is way better than they were last year. Obviously, they're 1-3, but they look a lot better offensively, and their defense has obviously done a complete 180. But I actually think there's a little bit of fantasy relevance if you're, like I said, in a deep league, kind of just need a play.
You're desperate.
I will add this to the waiver wire real quick. If you're in a fab league, I don't mind throwing a couple of dollars at him. If you get him, cool, fine. If you're in a priority league, don't.
Yeah.
Don't waste the priority. Don't waste the priority.
I agree with that. Well, speaking of fab, George Cook asked, how much fab out of $100 should I spend on Zach Ertz? Seems like a solid tight end option if I ever wanted to move off Hawkinson for an elite receiver.
I feel like that's all contingent on who else is available at the tight end. Because if the waiver wire's relatively deep, you probably wouldn't have to spend more than $3-4 on Zach Ertz. But one tight end I would actually be looking to roster is Jake Ferguson from Dallas. He's still, at least on Sleeper I saw, he's only rostered in 50% of the leagues. George, if he's available in your league, I would absolutely go for Ferguson over him. It's all
He says there's literally no other quality options out there but Ertz. Here's my thing against Ertz. He came back from knee surgery. We know who he knows he is at this time. I wouldn't spend any money on Ertz. I'd keep Hawkinson.
Yeah.
The positional value of a tight end. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I'm keeping Hawk. I mean, he's probably right now he knows, or he is the best one, the best tight end because of Kelsey missing that first week. He's tight end one on the year. The one thing I didn't know, I just had to look it up. And Zach Ertz, no touchdowns, and he's still tight end 10. So that's nice to know. Here's the thing with Jake Ferguson, and I love that Alex brought him up, is he's tight end 8 on the season. He's receiving 90% of the targets out of the tight end position. He's gotten 20 some odd targets from the at the tight end position. And I got asked this a little bit ago, so I didn't know this. I had to find this out. Take a wild guess at how the next person on Dallas tight end targets. How many?
Less than 5. It would probably Endersloot.
It is 5. It is 5, and it's actually Schoonmaker.
Schoonmaker.
He's got 5. So yeah, that tells you right there that it is all Jake Ferguson.
This is literally what he's doing to the tight end room. He's just reaching out,
taking it all
space. He takes up the masses. So I think that's a good call. Jack writes, Stroud or Fields this week? 1 and 3. Something needs to change, or I'm doing the B-Dubs Blazing Challenge. Those wings are spicy. Good luck, Jack. Hopefully you don't have to do it this year. But fellas, 2 young quarterbacks. Which one you taking?
I'm going Stroud. You're at this point, if you're trying to avoid the Blazing Challenge, you got to go for the floor. They both have a good ceiling. I'd take Stroud's floor over Fields' basement any day right now.
Yeah, it's Stroud for me as well. I mean, he's he's clicking with the team. He also plays Atlanta this week, who gives up a ton through the air. I'm trying to see who. Oh, and then Chicago's playing Washington. Washington's front 4 is still very, very good.
It's on a Thursday night too. They're on the road on a short week. I'm with you on Stroud. I think you're not going to be mad benching someone that has a better floor, but Justin Fields is capable of 9 points, and we haven't seen that from CJ Stroud yet. So I think you go with the guys that are going to get you guaranteed points, or at least the safest bet too. Last thing, Kenny Pickett injured his knee. It's just a bruise. It does kind of seem up in the air, but what are you doing with your Steelers? I mean, are you starting any outside of a DFS play maybe?
I mean, you're starting Najee if you have him. If you remember last year, because it's going to be, you got to remember too that it's going to be Mitch Trubisky this week, and then next week Pittsburgh's on a bye, so they're going to give Pickett 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Trubisky this week. Next week is a bye. You might see him in week 6 rather, or week 7. Yeah. So if the only person that I'm starting, and I say Najee, but I actually have a league that I'm going to have to start Najee and Warren, both of them, because the other running backs I have are either on bye or injured. So I have Rashad White, I have Austin Eckler, both of them are on bye, and then I don't know what's of course then we have Nick Chubb is injured. So those three are out for me. So now I have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, which, by the way, I have to take Jalen Warren off my taxi squad to bring him up to.
At that point, you're hoping one of them gets a touchdown. I've seen people in desperation leagues start Latavius Murray, and you know what? He'll have the ugliest 12 carries for 22 yards, but he'll get 2 touchdowns from there. So,
but when you look at it, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are both averaging 10+ points. Mm-hmm. If I can get 22 out of them, combined, I'll be fine.
Yeah, they want to hide Trubisky and run the ball as much as they can, so they'll be rotating them in or out. You just gotta hope that the third string running back, whoever that is, doesn't get a touchdown. You'd be pretty angry.
That would be brutal. That would be brutal.
God damn it! If that happens, I'm coming through here. I'm coming over there.
I will have jinxed it so bad. I will feel so bad. Just know I'll be struggling with you because I need Najee touchdowns in a league that I'm 1-3. But we're talking some fantasy perspective, but let's be real. Gambling is legal in a lot of states, and just gamble responsibly if you do. I don't need to say that long disclaimer. Jason, what is your favorite prop bet or just bet in general for this week?
My favorite bet this week is going to be Miami -11 against that horrific New York Giants team. It's at home in Miami. They might throw 60 on the board this week after getting just throwing 70 up 2 weeks ago, and they're just getting just barn burned last week in Buffalo. I think they're a little pissed. Unlike I thought Denver would be pissed and then go to Chicago and actually take revenge. That Denver defense did not care. They still didn't show up. Miami defense actually gives a damn. That team is probably going to throw 65 on the board against that.
I saw that, and then I had to think about it because I don't usually bet a lot of big spreads on the favorite. But you're right. This team put up 70. And let's say they don't even get close to that. Let's say they get 40. There's no way the Giants are getting 29.
That was without Waddle. They put up 70 without Waddle.
Yeah.
And the Giants stink. Like that's
I'm sure as a Philly fan you enjoy just trashing any NFC East.
No, not the Giants at this point. It's like the varsity team just beating up on the freshmen or the 8th graders at this point. Like you feel bad picking on Giants fans.
Here's the thing: since 2000, they still have the most Super Bowls in the division. Like that's what it ultimately comes down to. Those are hard-earned Super Bowls too. Those playoff runs as 6 seeds and beating the Patriots. But Alex,
8 or what is it? 8-9 team. Yeah, they did good. They beat the vaunted what is it? The New England Patriots. Their undefeated season. I think they were 8-9 that year or 7-9 that year.
It doesn't matter. They won it all. They won it all. You get the last laugh.
Yeah.
Alex, what is your favorite bet for this week?
So I like the Texans given 2.5 going to Atlanta. We already had our little love fest on CJ Stroud. We know Atlanta did not look good against Jacksonville. Desmond Ridder may be competing with Daniel Jones for the worst starting quarterback in the NFL. The fact that Houston is getting points with the way they've been looking the last few weeks, I feel like that's just a no-brainer given the other potential lines.
So do you believe that they're just basically saying this is a coin flip game? The reason Houston's getting points is because it's in Atlanta?
Yeah. That's the only reason.
3 points for home field. So the Falcons would be favored by 0.5. And it does kind of seem like a toss-up game when you look at it, but then when you see how bad the Falcons played last week, the momentum is completely different.
They've nothing going right now.
Yeah. When your head coach has to come out and go, no, Desmond Ridder is the starter. Stop it. There's some internal questions.
Yeah. If you watch quarterback now, you just kind of see how he's very like they probably stuck with Mariota too long last year, and Arthur Smith just seems reluctant to admit that there's fault at the quarterback position, which is fine. We all know it. Mine, I like the Cardinals plus 165 over the Bengals. The Cardinals are 1-3. they've had leads in 2 out of the 3 games they've lost in the fourth quarter at Commanders and versus the Giants. They blew a 28-0 lead. We're looking at this team different if they're 2-2.
Yeah.
They could even be 3-1. And, against the Niners, I know they lost 16-35. They played them close. It was a 20-16 game in the second half. And, I think they're a team that's just playing very hard. I think we all thought that they would tank. But I don't think new coaches go along with tanking. I think new coaches are, I'm fighting for my job every day. So we've talked a lot about kind of the Bengals and how they're falling apart. They won't have T. Higgins. You can just kind of sense that the Bengals lose this game. And now we're like, people are kind of half talking about them here and there. Like, oh, is there something wrong? If they lose this week, this is like, okay, we're officially panicking.
Mm-hmm.
We're panicking at 1-4. So...
Yeah, that's super interesting. If they go 0-5, if the Bengals go 0-5,
well, they've won a game so far.
Oh, did they
against the Rams?
Oh, okay. So if they go 1-4 with a loss to the Cardinals, is that when they say close up the hatches? Where this season's done?
It might be close. Who do they?
If they were smart. So obviously they play their division games. They're going to play the Steelers twice. And the AFC North is the most physical division in all of football. Then they play at the 49ers. They play at the Chiefs. They play versus home against the Bills. I looked at this when I was making the bet. I was like, the Bills, Chiefs, 49ers are probably 3 losses right there. And you're telling me to look at the rest of their division or the rest of their schedule.
Their games, yeah.
And that maybe they don't split with the Steelers. They split with the Ravens. They already lost versus the Browns.
They still have Seattle as well. They have the NFC West is their NFC division this year.
You know what we need to do? I think these are all insightful picks. We got to put a parlay down this weekend. We got to put a parlay down, even if just a couple bucks. Something us 3. If this hits
with these picks,
this will always connect us. So we'll talk about this off air. And if anybody's listening, I think this is a great thing to tail. Obviously, we'll have to see how it plays out. Hindsight's 50-50. For Zach's favorite segment, which I'm going to do, it's real and spectacular or fake. So, Jay, were you a Seinfeld guy at all?
No, but I have seen a few of these shows, so I'm kind of with you. So
okay, so yeah,
we'll see how bad I do.
It's just in terms of fantasy takes. So. The Cowboys D/special teams is the fantasy MVP for the first 4 weeks of the season. Real and spectacular or fake?
I'm going to say fake because I believe that the San Francisco 49ers D has probably been better to this point.
Keep in mind the draft position. You might have taken Dallas as like the 5th or 6th defense. You might have had to spend up a little more to get the 49ers.
49ers, right. Yeah, the one thing that I keep going back to when it goes to this defense is the Arizona loss.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of hurts. I guess yes. Okay. So in that aspect, it would be the 49ers, but draft position, yes, it would be Dallas because they were probably the fourth defense taken.
I think 49ers, Jets in some drafts went ahead of them. The Saints,
like the Eagles because of the sacks.
Eagles because of the sacks. To your point, in ESPN standard scoring, though, this is the Cowboys through 4 games: 35, 16, -2, and 26.
Oh, the answer is, as much as this pains me, absolutely. It's essentially you're getting another legitimate flex option with the Cowboys with that defense. It's like a few years back when the Patriots defense,
oh my gosh,
2018, 2019, when Stephon Gilmore won Defensive Player of the Year, like that year, that's what this Cowboys defense is.
Here's what I'll tell you too.
It pains me.
Diggs not being there though. Diggs not being there.
That they've hit their peak.
Diggs not being there is going to be a problem.
What's going on, Jorge? Appreciate you joining us. So I will say this as someone that has the Cowboys D, but I know what it's like to probably face them. When you see like a 25+ point from your opponent's defense, you get so angry. I think I think more than anything else is, QB fine. Josh Allen had 5 total touchdowns. He has those games a couple of years ago. When a defense has that good of a game against you, it is so morally deflating.
It's like the scene from Entourage when Ari looks at his phone and launches it against the wall. That's what I want to do when I see Dallas defense on my phone.
Well, how do you think the people felt last night going into the Seattle Giants game up by like 12, 13 points and look and go, okay, Seattle's they're projected at like 11-9. Oh, I should win this game. And Seattle throws up a 30 burger on defense.
Well, that's the Daniel Jones effect. You almost have to be aware going into it.
It's to this point that the fact that we've seen a lot of really big scoring games from defenses so far, I think more this year than any other year that I can remember through 4 weeks.
I'm on the Jeff Ratcliffe had this thing he said about defensive scoring. Defensive scoring is so 1980. It needs to be updated super, super bad. This is the only position when we start a game, whether it's a fantasy game or whatever, when we start looking at our fantasy scores at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday, it's the only position that has a positive points right away. Number one. Every other position that we play has percentage points, whether it's yardage, whatever. This was the points for defensive and special teams was set up so that when old people like me, when we were back in the 80s playing fantasy football, we only had pen and paper. And so we had to write everything down. There wasn't these computers that do it for us. So it was easy to add. We have to update it. And that's up to a couple of sites that need to fix that. But
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. Or at least maybe modify it to 5 to start, because that way it gives you a little bit of a buffer if you're a lot of times losing it. Alex, starting with you on this one, and I'm curious as a 49ers fan because I'll have my own thoughts later. CMC will be the consensus 101 next year.
How many more years is he locked up in San Fran? Is he still under control next year?
Here's my thing, whether he's under control or not.
I still think it is.
I think he's going to be back with the 49ers. I think this is his best chance to win a Super Bowl. He's gotten paid. He might be the type willing to take a restructure or pay cut in order to be the team to compete in this window.
Then absolutely. If he's on the 49ers, he will be the number 1 pick next year.
Okay.
Even though he'll be past that cliff for running backs. He's not your traditional running back per se. You're not going to give him 300 carries up the gut and that's it. Like last game, he still had 8 targets and not all of them were just like little swing routes from the outfield, from the backfield. He lines up in the slot. He lines up on the outside. They get him in motion. If he's in San Fran, he's going to have that number 1 floor next year again.
Yeah, I just looked at Christian's contract. He's locked up till 2025 or 2026. He's got 2 voidable years on there, but so he's there for 2 more years.
Unless Atlanta gets a competent coach and Bijan overtakes him, CMC's your number 1 pick as long as he's in San Fran.
I think that's probably the guy that's going to be 102 is Bijan, but Jay, would you take CMC at the 101?
I mean, you have to, right? You're taking him as long as he's healthy. If he makes it through this year healthy, then yeah, he's definitely the 101. And then, like you said, Bijan's probably the 102. Then we're talking wide receivers. Whereas this year we were talking wide receivers and then running backs. We with the way that the running backs have fallen this year, you want to grab that stud that you know is going to stay healthy and then backfill. But
you know what? For those of us that went really deep into Chubb, thinking he's the epitome of durable, and that's the thing. I mean, CMC is going to be the 101 because assuming he stays healthy, he's going to be the number 1 running back, and he's been shown to do this year in, year out, rushing and receiving. He's on a good offense. But I think Bijan is going to be – that's where I'd rather have the 2nd pick next year, where I'm okay trading down 1 spot and then getting someone sooner on the way back because, anytime you can advance in the 2nd round, if you're okay with who, between a couple guys in the 1st round.
Mm-hmm.
And CMC is one of the few backs where it's not a committee by any means. Like, he is the guy.
You're right. Kyle Shanahan just says we need to get him less touches.
Yeah, and then
he doesn't have the influence, and then proceeds to give him 90% of the touches
of the
out
opportunities.
Of the next game. Never bet on Christian McCaffrey rushing under attempts. For those that are listening, comes from experience. To finish out our show, give me one guy you're yeeting off your roster, Alex.
Any Titans receiver. They're a roster clogger at this point. If you have them, you're only going to play them out of desperation if your entire receiving core gets hurt. Cut them, cut bait. That way, when a waiver wire pickup does happen, you won't have to have that decision to drop anyone because you'll have that open roster spot. You don't even need to replace it this week. Just get it off your roster.
Okay. No Titans wide receivers. Love to hear that. What about you, Jay? Who's someone that you're plucking off your team?
Well, as a diehard Florida Gator, this is really going to hurt my feelings. But at this point, you have no choice because Jonnu Smith is becoming the tight end one in Atlanta, and it is not Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is playing more of the outside, more wide receiver. And unfortunately, due to money, whatever, they will not change him to a wide receiver, which means we cannot use him in that wide receiver role. And with the current quarterback, they do not throw to the wide receivers in that offense. They throw to Jonnu Smith, and that's it. They don't even throw to Bijan Robinson very much, even though he's damn good when he does catch it. But yeah, it's like I said, as much as it sucks, it is Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
the talent is there, but he doesn't play tight end, and they don't. Desmond Ridder doesn't know how to get the ball to wide receivers.
Yeah. So here's my thing. You keep him until there's a quarterback change. I think there's one sooner. Right. I think you give it a couple more weeks. I think.
Yeah. And when I'm answering this question, I'm looking at more this year redraft kind of a thing.
Yeah.
If we're talking dynasty, you're absolutely a hold.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Obviously a hold. Somebody that I can't think of anybody that has, barring injury, and I know Kyle Pitts is coming back from an MCL sprain that seemed more serious than it actually was reported. I've never seen somebody's dynasty value tank because of the usage. To go from 1,000 yards as a rookie to what do you think? What do you think Kyle Pitts' dynasty value is right now?
Well, you probably didn't even draft. If you did a startup this year, you probably didn't even draft him until like the 10th, 11th round. He's probably your last quote unquote starter that you drafted. And that's because at that point you're like, golly, the value is just too good
to pass up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Little fun fact about your Florida Gator Kyle Pitts. His high school is about 2.5 minutes from where I live in Warminster.
There you go.
Archbishop
Give it away your location. Internet stalkers like this.
Yes.
For mine.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Jay.
No, I was just going to say, so in the internet stalkers, you know right where to find Alex. It's about 2.5 minutes from high school. You can rewind and listen to it again. Make sure you get the spelling correct because Google does not like you to misspell words.
Yeah. It's funny. Years ago, we were very private about our information, and now we give. You can find out so much from someone via social media, whether it's us, whether it's players.
Anything, yeah.
My cut is Antonio Gibson, and he's probably cut in your league. And this is somebody that I got a decent amount. Owned in 53.3% of ESPN leagues. I still think that's too much. I live in the DC area, or I have a Commanders friend as a roommate, so I watch all of the games. I don't need to give you stats, even though they would back up my argument. But he's the definition of the guy that does the most. And it worked when he had younger, fresher legs. I think the injuries have added up. I was guilty of thinking that Brian Robinson, who we saw last year, was going to be the Brian Robinson to expect this year. And, this is what happens when you don't get shot in the offseason, is you're a much better player the following year. And obviously it's a great story in its own. But I don't think there's a spot for Gibson on this team. And even with the shallowness of the running back position, I think if something was to happen to Brian Robinson, Gibson gets
They'd
cut.
still make another move. No, I agree with you there.
I think there was a chance for Gibson to do something this year, especially with the new OC coming over. But the fumbles have just been a problem for him. And if he can't fix that, then like I'll give you. I have a lot of Antonio Gibson and been holding him. I finally, just over the last hour and a half, I've got a couple waiver claims for Michael Wilson out of Arizona. And Antonio Gibson is the one that I'm dropping to get him in those leagues that I'm able to get him. So yeah, I'm 100% on board. Unfortunately, because I thought I thought he was going to be something this year. I thought they had a chance.
Yeah, I did too. And, they used Curtis Samuel in ways that Antonio Gibson would if he wasn't there. End around, short passes, and they paid Curtis Samuel a lot more money than what Gibson's making. So I think from a financial perspective, there's more reason for him to use him. But fellas, that does it throughout the show. I'm going to say my random tight end touchdown because I'm going to hit one of these weeks. One of these weeks, I'm going to hit my tight end touchdown. This week, it's going to be Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington is getting his first touchdown. The Muth is out, hopefully. Not hopefully, but expectedly. Darnell Washington, I think, scores a touchdown this week. You guys have any obscure tight end touchdowns? Just put it out in thin air right now.
I wouldn't say obscure, but Dallas Goedert hasn't found one yet.
Oh, that's not obscure. Come on.
He hasn't found one yet.
One where you got to get in the bag and get it.
The backup tight end in Dallas. Whoever has those 5 targets behind Jake Ferguson.
Stuberger, there you go. What about you, Jay?
All right, let's see. I better throw this one out there because with Irv Smith being out,
Drew Sample,
Hudson. Is it Todd or is it Tim? Tanner Hudson.
Hudson
out of South Arkansas.
Oh, that
5 years. I think he finally gets one in there.
This might have to be a first touchdown. I don't think anytime touchdown's going to be as juicy enough. He had 2 catches for 18 yards last game. Jay, that might be a bet that you just throw a couple bucks on.
Yeah.
Fun story to end the show, and I want to give David credit on this. Alex, do you remember Tyree Jackson for the Eagles?
Yeah.
Ex-Florida Gator.
My brother had a good feeling he would score first touchdown, and this is before the apps were legal at a bookie. And the odds were plus 3,800 for first touchdown. He had never had a catch entering the game. And from the 2, they do a shovel pass to him. And I did not bet for my brother because I was unclear if he wanted me to or not. But I had a roommate that bet 20 and won 760. And so just short story about those obscure tight end touchdowns because sometimes they pay off.
Yeah. So
that's going to wrap us up here. Guys, great show. Almost 45-minute mark. Jay, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for having me.
First time I feel like we've talked, but it felt pretty natural. But please plug anything you're working on, where people can find you on the socials, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So today is Tuesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I'll be on 4th and Frames tomorrow on Fantasy and Frames Network over there on YouTube. Thursday night, I do my pregame show with Going for Two. We'll sit down with my 2 co-hosts and we'll go through the game for tomorrow night or for Thursday night rather, and as well as a few prop bets like we did tonight. We'll give you a couple of cards that you can go and play, mix and match with, and do that. Sunday morning we do our start sits on the Sunday morning pregame show, and Tuesdays is waiver wire Tuesday for Fantasy and Frames as well as everybody else. But we do a live show. I did that right before we got on here tonight. Super fun. 8 o'clock on Sunday is 9 o'clock on Sundays when we get started. It feels like 8 o'clock, but 9 o'clock on Sundays when we get started. So yeah, you can find me over at Fantasy J over there. It's Fantasy J77 on Twitter, X, whatever. More importantly though, don't necessarily just go follow me. Go follow Fantasy and Frames and then go follow these guys. Go follow Triple Play Fantasy.
I appreciate that, Jay. Plugging us back. This is the handshake emoji in real life. That's what you and I are doing right now. Alex, what about you? Anything you want to plug? You can't say anything about Philly sports. That's the one thing for this 30 seconds of FaceTime you don't get.
All right, I got nothing. You can see me here on Tuesdays.
Awesome. Well, make sure you follow the show at Trip Play Fantasy and subscribe to both of us because we got you, great content coming out. And we're guys that are passionate about it at the end of the day. But for Doc, for Jay, for Alex, we're going to make like a bread truck and haul these buns. Good luck in week 5. We'll catch you.